members of the Oregon Community College Association, fellow students, and distinguished guests. No man is an island, entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. We are placed on this planet for a cause greater than ourselves. Our worth is, to some extent, tied to how much we put ourselves at the service of our fellow man. This bears repeating, especially in the face of an increasingly narcissistic and selfish zeitgeist, and it applies to how we use our time, talent, and treasure. And that includes education. Education is a means of achieving excellence, fleeing poverty, and securing a higher standard of living and quality of life. But education must be undertaken not just for these reasons, good as they are, but for a cause greater than oneself. My name is Casey Dudek, and last month I graduated with honors from Portland Community College with a paralegal certificate. I am immensely grateful to Almighty God and to all of my instructors and benefactors for their assistance in all of my ongoing educational endeavors. A brief history of my family. We always say that my mom's side of the family came over on the Mayflower because we can't trace back their lineage very far. My dad's side of the family, on the other hand, consisted of Catholic immigrants of Polish, Ukrainian, and Russian descent. Landing on the East Coast about a century ago, they clung to their faith and old world customs. My paternal grandfather worked in a Pittsburgh steel mill. Toiling under subhuman conditions, the first generation of the Dudek family in America quickly learned that the fruits of the American dream would take time to harvest. But they sought to educate their children and themselves, and they succeeded. My paternal grandmother ended up graduating from nursing school at the same time as one of her children. They eventually adapted to American culture and rose from low income status to affluence. The American dream had come true. My family had come from a crucible of a humble, harrowing steel mill to the apex of computer technology at IBM, where my parents met. I was born in Seattle. When I was 6, my parents made the difficult decision to move to Oregon. One of the main reasons for this transition was because after finishing kindergarten, I would have ended up having to go to less than stellar public schools in Bellevue. My parents opted to move to Lake Oswego so that I could attend the exceptional schools there. We had many friends in Washington, but after leaving, we ended up cutting ties with all of them. It was hard for all of us, but my parents made this decision because they valued my education, because they knew how crucial a good education was for developing character, leadership, and skills for whatever the future might throw at their kids. I applied myself diligently to my primary and secondary education. When I reached high school, the going got tough. Courses were difficult and I was isolated due to my extreme shyness. But I reminded myself that there were countless young people in the world who will never receive the education that I was receiving. I could not afford to waste it. I also remembered on how many people were supporting me in banking, sometimes literally, on my academic success. I could not afford to let them down. In 2012, I graduated with honors from Lake Oswego High School and won no fewer than 7 scholarships. My parents still remember the awards ceremony, in which I was summoned to the stage more than almost any other student. Tragically and ironically, by the time I was finally willing to make friends at my high school, it was time to move on to the next chapter of my life. I was accepted to George Fox University in Newburgh to major in biblical studies and educational ministries. I made more friends there in my first 6 months than I had in 4 years of high school. And I learned firsthand the saying that 90% of learning takes place outside of the classroom. Not only that, but my fervor to serve was reignited. I have a history of volunteer work dating back at least 17 years and have assisted over 30 different organizations in the Pacific Northwest. Anyone can do things they don't want to do if they get paid, but doing things for others without an immediate reward doesn't just take compassion, it takes vision. While at school, I was overjoyed by the amount that I learned, the number of friendships I forged, and the optimistic outlook I had for the future, things that had long eluded me before. In 2016, I graduated with honors from George Fox University with a Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies and Educational Ministries. My education helped me develop and strengthen my memory, sense of humor, and critical thinking skills, which I apply almost everywhere I go. Thanks to my formation, I was able to achieve success in both blue-collar and white-collar jobs, volunteer and paid positions, work and leisure. As a writer, I have written and edited essays, transcriptions, novel manuscripts, senior theses, letters, stories, scripts, songs, and poetry, along with art and videos. In the technical writing positions I have held, I quickly gained the respect of my supervisors with my writing skills, grammar, and work ethic, leading them to increase my responsibilities. During the year I spent at one position, I wrote 395 articles. My fastest one took just 25 minutes. In another role, I collaborated with people from all departments and boosted my own department's productivity by 40%. But throughout my professional history, I've worked doubles and overtime, maintained confidentiality, strengthened relationships, and dressed and acted with professionalism, courtesy, and integrity, even when dealing with difficult people and high-stress environments. In 2016, I joined Toastmasters International, and since then I have delivered nearly 70 speeches, been elected to 3 leadership positions, and received multiple awards. By pushing myself out of my comfort zone, I have formed professional relationships, discoursed on a wide variety of subjects, and exercised leadership skills beyond my expectations. I also learned that the more I pushed myself, the better I'd perform. I discovered that if I had no plans or obligations, I wouldn't get much done. But if I loaded my schedule with plans and tasks, I'd be more productive. Many of the responsibilities I've taken on in the past few years weren't things I particularly liked, but I chose them because I knew that they would push me towards productivity and improvement. I forced my own hand, and it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made. But my schooling wasn't over. A year and a half ago, I was considering a career change from writing to the legal field. Several friends encouraged me. And then I remembered that a few years ago, I took the Strong Interest Inventory Profile, a personality test that lists your top 10 recommended career options based on your skills in the fields of art, enterprising, social, investigative, and etc. My number one career choice was, you guessed it, paralegal. And so I decided to take a few paralegal classes at Portland Community College to get a feel for the field. I was eventually received into PCC's paralegal program and also accepted into 2 honor societies. Unfortunately, I was laid off from my last technical writing position due to COVID-19 last year. Getting paid since then has been tough, but at the same time, I can boast of some other accomplishments during that same period. Planning costly and potentially dangerous travels independently and successfully completing them, getting selected for leadership positions and accepting a number of responsibilities, receiving multiple educational awards and officer positions through Toastmasters, and achieving excellence in my paralegal classes. This virus will not defeat me. In the past year at Portland Community College's paralegal program, I have learned so much. My classes have taught me how to write briefs and memos, conduct legal research, use legal software, be mindful of ethnic and economic differences when interacting with clients, and how to deal with unethical practices. I've studied professions in the law, the history of American law, corporate law, employment law, contracts, ethics, real estate, and more. Thanks to my education, I feel better equipped to meet the challenges of future positions. Last month, I graduated with honors from Portland Community College with a paralegal certificate, but my schooling isn't done yet, as I'm still taking 3 online classes. And if additional online schooling pushes me to learn more, read more, push myself more, and achieve more, then I can see myself being in school for the rest of my life. After all, once you're through learning, you're through. I have a burning desire to spend myself for the causes I care about. I will persist, and I hope to inspire as many as I can to dedicate their lives to a cause greater than oneself. Thank you.